You'll put in a lot of work since this camp started. What have you seen from this group of DBs, especially the young guys?
Yeah, I think what you want to see is just constant improvement. You know, you want to see new mistakes, which usually is a signifier of growth. I think with the first group, we're seeing more and more familiarity with the communication, the alignments, the tools, and the young guys are starting to learn a little bit more concepts. The first time we got to really see them off of airline drives was, in the preseason game, and they had a ton of ball production. They flew around, made some tackles, did some hits. So you get to see what it's like in live action, and I know I was excited to watch them. I thought they did really well.
What is your review right now of Paul Senadima? Would you say for a guy who sat out all of last year that he's pretty advanced for a guy who hadn't played a lot?
Well, he definitely, yeah. He doesn't look like he's rusty at all. You see normal things with rookies just trying to get used to some of the concepts, but his natural ability pops off of the tape. His recovery, his ability to close on the ball is something that's really special. And so, yeah, the biggest thing is cleaning up his footwork at the line of scrimmage, which will come with time. But, I think he's been impressive to see him come in and be where he is as a rookie. Like I said, I think he's going to play some quality snaps for us this year.
Malcolm, what do you think for a big game? First, Eric Burrell, rookie out of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
Big game for him. He's pretty active.
Yeah, I think, out here, I think he's somebody who's probably in his head a little bit, but just, trying to get accustomed to where to put his eyes, worried about making mistakes and things like that. But he got in the game, that's probably the fastest we've seen him play since he got here. He was able to kind of just get into the flow of the game and then, showed up when the ball carries, had the ball, made some big hits, forced a turnover, had a lot of production, didn't have any mental errors, which is what you want to see out of young players, especially safeties. You want them to get out of there, communicate, make sure they know the defense, but also want them to show up when the ball's, when the ball carrier has the ball and make some plays on the ball. So he did everything, I think you want to see out of young safeties as well as the rest of the group. But I think that was encouraging to see him in real live game action.
Malcolm, we put so much focus on the number 2 corner spot being unsettled, but the safety depth that you guys have you ever been around a team with as much depth at that position?
No. I think usually that's a position, you rely on a couple guys that can play a few positions to kind of fill that void. But no, I think, we feel good at that spot, probably 2 and 3 deep, with some guys like Ducey and myself who can play your nickel, play your dime, even P.J. Williams being able to play some different positions. Even Bryce, young safety, playing corner. And, so we got some versatility, which always adds depth because injuries, are going to happen. Things are going to happen. So I think that's something that's been encouraging to see not only the guys at safety, but being able to learn different positions.
And yeah, coaches always talk about using the strengths of your team. I mean, it probably was an allure when you came here, but especially going through it last year, how much VA uses safeties.
Yeah.
Is that pretty rare, you think, in this league? Or?
Well, I think it comes down to personnel. And I think that's one of the things that have just kept me around this game for as long as it is. Has been the ability to play multiple positions that helps you match up, depending on what the team is. So you can play sub packages versus 2 tight ends, 2 backs even. And we don't really change. We don't have to go to, base. So having that, is always a good thing. Then we go to 6 DBs, we can play whatever, any package against that as well. It's just, do you have enough players that are versatile enough to understand those spots, but then the physical abilities as well to actually survive in those different positions.
Malcolm, you have a unique perspective on Coach Payton, having been with him earlier in his career and now these last 2 years. Same guy, or have you seen an evolution similar?
Yeah, I think he's the same guy, but you definitely see an evolution from him as a younger coach where you have a set way of your beliefs. And I think he said it recently where it's like some things he believed early in his coaching career that he no longer really believes in, but some of his things are his core, non-negotiable beliefs. And I think that's one of the reasons so many guys enjoy being here is because he's created a culture that still stays. We're still going to have a tough training camp. We're still going to press the pace. We're going to compete. And he brings that energy, so it's hard not to have it as a player. So it's one of those things where the bar is high when it comes to fitting into the culture, but once you do, you really don't want to leave a place like this.
How much have you seen? There's been a lot of discussion of the departures because there's a lot of veteran guys in it, but there still seems like there's a pretty good core of people coming back. I mean, how much have you seen kind of that same momentum defensively so far, even in just this practice? I mean, does it feel similar to what you guys have done just for last year?
Yeah, I think the leadership on the defense is still very much, intact, and the standards and our mentality as far as where we're trying to go and what we're trying to accomplish is, I think, if I think back over my career, it's been hard to think of years where I've been this confident in the defense this early in a training camp. That's not even looking at who's actually on the roster, who's out there on the 11. You're just watching the tape, and you see from the third group to the ones, the intensity, the ball production, the execution is all there. And now we're just trying to continue to fine-tune, the nuances of each defense, and that's where we weren't last year. We got to it, and I'm encouraged where we were starting this year.
Malcolm, on the field question about Michael Thomas for NFL ranked write-ups. What makes him so hard to defend, even in those years where it felt like you knew he was going to get the ball on every play?
I think he's a really good route runner. So even when you have tight coverage on him or double bracket or things like that, he can find the margins in your coverage. He's strong at the catch point, so even if it's contested, he's coming down with the ball. He's physical, even just in his route running. So he knows how to create separation. He's not the fastest guy out there, but somehow always has a step or two on the defensive back, and that comes to his route running, his competitiveness. And I think that's one of those things. He doesn't care what the coverage is, if he's double covered or not. He wants to win, and most oftentimes does win.
Malcolm, how difficult do you think it will be to not have Onyemata, knowing how good a player he is?
Yeah.
For 6 weeks, is that like an incredibly difficult void to fill, and how do you compensate for that?
Well, I wouldn't pretend to with an incredibly difficult void to fill. I think Onyemata is obviously a huge part of what we do in the run, and super productive, and you can't necessarily replace what he does. But when we look at who's coming in after him, who's going to fill those voids, I don't think we're worried about what that looks like. Obviously, we're better with him on the field, but I think we'll be fine.
Malcolm, have you noticed a difference in Crawley this year from last year?
Yeah, I think with anything, when you have opportunity or real opportunity, you see a chance to play. All of a sudden, you have a little bit more pep in your step. You got a little bit different demeanor and approach to the game, and I think in his mind, he sees an opportunity for him to be a starter in this league, where he's been a role player up until this point. And so I think you've seen it. He's had a phenomenal camp. Has been very productive on the ball. Hadn't given up many plays. Been competitive with the first group. Doesn't make mistakes. So I think that's what you want to see. And obviously we're going to be leaning on him. He's competing for a starting spot right now, but regardless, we'll probably be leaning on him at some point in the early part of the season.
And the confidence is like a requirement to play the corner position, right?
Oh yeah.
It seems like his right now is just like huge.
Yeah, I don't think confidence was ever a thing. It was just more so his approach to practice in the game and having to prove it. And when you know you're going to be a backup player, it's a little bit different. When okay, I have a true opportunity to be a starter, not only for him on his team, but just in his career. Like, this is a good opportunity for him. So the confidence has never really been there, but I mean, it's always been there. But now you're starting to see the daily kind of deposits he's doing with his work, his technique, all of it. You see the urgency there.
Have you seen it happen often with players where they have some real early success? Like, he started 13 games, I think, in his second pro season, kind of filled in, and then they came into the third season with a lot of high expectations, like maybe he's just going to be a full-time starter for a long time. And it maybe, it's interesting, he all of a sudden just dropped off, and then he comes back with a new perspective maybe. Have you seen that happen with many guys where they reemerge and
well, I think this game is usually, it's humbling at times, and at times it's just all about the situation you're in and what opportunities you have. You know, I don't, you know, I think a lot of players would think that and know that they are starting caliber players, but depending on who's in front of you or what team you're on, you might not have that opportunity. And you can go to one team and start the entire season and go to the next and be on the practice squad. That's just how this league goes. The key is to, when you have those opportunities, how do you grasp them and hold on to them and maintain those spots? And obviously he has that opportunity right in front of him.
I led with it, but yeah, on a serious note, with P-Rob retiring, was that a surprise? What were those conversations like, and how much has he, meant to you and this team since you've been his teammate?
Yeah, I mean, I've known P-Rob since he came in. He was drafted a year after me. I was a big reason why he ended up in Philly, and he played a huge part in what we did in that Super Bowl run. As this is my 13th year, this would have been his 12th, so it's not a surprise to me. I know what the body feels like, how long we've been playing this game. We've joked around. I've been playing since I was in the 4th grade, so probably about 7 years old. You've never had an August like to yourself or a fall season. And so the game is just, mentally, everything. The games on Sundays are the fun part. That's what we're all here for. That's what we love to do. But the grind of the off season, getting hurt, being in the training room, rehab, all of those things, training camp, after a while they build up. And so it's not necessarily a surprise. But when you know.
Malcolm, how have you seen Quan Alexander come back from injury today, getting him in full contact drills? What's it been like to see him in? What did you see maybe today? Is there a change?
Well, I mean, there's no change. Quan is Quan every day. He's been itching to get back, with the team. You can tell even just off his Instagram all off season. He's posting videos, he's working out, he's grinding. So to get him back in the building was really good. I think just for the morale of the defense. But I mean, he's entering, into a unit that has had probably the strongest camp, out of any position group out here. Our linebackers, from top to bottom, have just been lights out and phenomenal, and their level of play has been risen. And I think that challenges, and demands more from even your DeMarios or Quans and guys who've proved it in this league. So it's just, it's exciting to add him to a bunch that, again, has already been probably the leaders of as far as production on our defense.